Welcome to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder, and I am so excited because one of the things that I love about Front Porch Radio, our tagline is Conversations for the Common Good, and some of the best conversations I have are with my best friends, as you might imagine. I have a whole bunch of really cool friends, but this past weekend I said, you know what, I want to get my college girls and my high school best friend together and just let's have a pre-election chat, just regular old folks talking about our hopes and fears for the election. And while I did have to edit out some curse words and brutally cut down about an hour and a half's worth of conversation into a segment that I could air on WPRK, I think it's just a really nice snapshot of what people are feeling these days, a little temp check. So I hope that you fall in love with my best friends the same way I have. The first people that you're going to hear talking are Maggie. She's a mother of two out in Colorado, living in Denver, Colorado. Tiffany is a mother of one, precious little girl, out in Petaluma, California. And then later in the conversation, my friend Jennifer is a mother of three up in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and she joins later because she was doing mom stuff. It's very important. So hope that you have a interesting, just peek into the inner thoughts of a bunch of really cool ladies. And here we go.
Honestly, I was going to say, like, whenever we had our little powwow, because I know that Julie was going to ask us, like, how we're feeling about the election.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw's been clenched for the last 2 weeks. I was considering going to Florida to be with my sister-in-law. And I was like, if something happens and Trump wins, I don't know if, I need to be in my safe spot. I don't know if
with your family.
Go on being in someone else's home. Yeah, so I'm staying home. But if Kamala does win, it would be so fantastic to be amongst my women friends. But I just can't risk not winning and then being home and like being in my safe place where I can go into a dark room and cry.
Totally. If she wins, I want to be here with Coral.
Yeah.
Celebrate that with her and be like, see, because she is pumped. She's got the posters in her room. I'm so happy and excited for it. Also, there's, of course, the protective part of me is, oh my God, I've set her up for heartbreak if she doesn't win.
Remember Hillary? I just remember really making it a big thing because she was so far ahead in the polls. And then like all of my cousins, like taking my nieces or taking their daughters like to the polls with them and just making it like break the glass ceiling moment. And then just like the disappointment and like having to wake up the next day.
The dark hall that fell over the nation. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, totally. You just look so cute right now and so stylish. And the it's shadow. It's true. The next morning I woke up and I felt like someone had died. Like that kind of feeling where you wake up and it's from something horrible that's happened. And for a second, you're like, maybe it's not true. And then it was like, no,
we're all invested in politics.
Yeah.
And I can't say the same about a lot of my friends. Sometimes I feel like it just seems so normal because we were all, even at such a young age, like clearly I was the token registered Republican when I got to college. And thank you, Tiffany, from saving me from that.
Well, you didn't know. You can't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And then I very quickly knew and understood. But like, do you think it was your mother's? Like what, like why, how did you guys get so interested in this stuff from such a young age?
Oh my God. Both my parents were political activists. That's how they met. So my dad worked on a newspaper in Atlanta. I don't know. They were just like heavyweights, like in activism. And they've instilled those values into both my brother and I. And I can't say that I always cared when I was like being young and stupid, but when I really plugged in, which was around Bush, like when Bush or Gore lost the election, I really started to care a little bit more. And as you grow older, you realize how each of the issues affect you personally and how they affect your family. And then, God, you have children and like, it's hammered and just all of these decisions, like they matter so much.
I'll never forget at your mom's service, your dad got up and gave the story about how she basically rallied everyone to march against the KKK. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. And ran up and shook her fist in their face. Yeah. They totally were, both of them were like very gung ho. And have a good legacy in that way.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that's
having you all as my friends, like you are also very plugged in and like informed, and you do your own research, and it helps me stay plugged in too. So,
same,
thanks.
same. I've always had so much admiration for you and for your family of origin in that way, because very few people can say they like walked the walk. They were in the streets actually having that be part of their day-to-day lives, which I've never done that really in any meaningful way. And so I've just always thought that was so cool. And it's in your blood. It's that like activism and politics are truly in your blood, given that you came from two actual activist parents.
Yeah.
There was no other way to be, I think.
I know it does
You
feel
know?
like it. Now I'm working for my dream organization,
Right.
not in the health centers, but but just like working for them feels so good. I feel okay. I can die, and at least I have that going for me. Like
At least, a
followed
bare minimum.
followed through on some of
Yeah.
that activism. But yeah,
It's so cool to be doing work that is impactful like that. And I think that's where it's at, really.
Other than the long history, I know that you're raising your kids and you don't necessarily have to work. So what was that kind of final, I don't know, motivation to get to go and apply at Planned Parenthood and start work?
quite frankly, part of it was just because I had not worked for a couple of years, and I was like losing my effing mind at home with the kids, and I just really wanted like something, even if it was part time, to go back to feel like I had my own thing and I had some self worth and I was like contributing to something. The blessing of my job now is that I'm able to work remotely. My schedule is super flexible. Planned Parenthood is an amazing place to work. They're just, I don't know, their mission and their values, and even just the staff that I work with, I really appreciate them so much. I am married to someone who makes enough of a living that I don't have to work. It gave me the freedom to like be choosy about who I
Go
want
for what you really wanted to do.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
it's not always the case. Most people in the middle class, like they can't. They just are like looking for a job, or they have to take whatever is going to pay the bills. And so I'm just lucky in that way.
And it worked out. I also remember you just being like, I got to do something. I can't just let this slow moving accident go without trying to make a dent.
Oh my God, it was like right after the row fell too. And I've been saying for years, that's my dream job. And it just came together. But I am really lucky that I was able to do it. Feels good because I'm working towards the mission. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every piece of that puzzle is crucial. And your background is healthcare administration, right? So it's like you are using the skill set that you have trained in and that you have to benefit this organization. I think every piece of that puzzle is equally important for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Tiffany? How did you get your interest in politics?
I mean, it was just from the time I was born. My parents were were just always very interested and engaged in politics. And one of my earliest memories, my dad was like a real hothead, extreme left wing liberal. And my parents were news junkies. One of my earliest memories is the sound of the NPR, like All Things Considered jingle,
Yeah,
like in the early 80s when I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
With NPR in the early 80s? God, I only had Limbaugh blaring in my house.
Oh my God. The only reason I knew who Rush Limbaugh was is because my mom would pick me up from school and she'd be like rage listening to Rush Limbaugh, getting all worked up. For some reason, she'd be like, "We're this jerk." That's when I was in high school. I don't know why she would do that to herself. So one of my early memories is, it must have been, I guess it was 1984. So I guess I was 6. It was when Walter Mondale was running against Ronald Reagan and Geraldine Ferraro was the VP candidate. So obviously it was very exciting because we had a female VP candidate. And my parents were leaving to go vote. And I was going to stay with my brother. And my dad got down at my eye level and he said, "Ronald Reagan hates Black people."
oh my God.
And we lived in New Mexico. Like I'd never seen a Black person. I didn't know what any of that meant, but I will never forget it. Looking back, that's a pretty intense thing to say to a 6-year-old, but also he wasn't wrong. And I still remember it to this day. There was never a time when politics wasn't in the conversation at the dinner table and the day to day. The news was always on. Most of my friends had no idea what I was talking about, but I was very aware of the the news of the day, basically. And my mom was explaining to me the concept of abortion and why it's important that it be legal, and from a really young age. So it was just always part of the dialogue in my house. And I remember there being this thing where even at that age, I had friends that understood what I was talking about and friends that didn't. And there was, to this day, still is. There are girlfriends I have that, like you guys, who we just get into it. And then there are girlfriends who they're just not engaged in it. And it's just not a topic we talk about. It's not that it's a sensitive topic. It's just, it just doesn't come up.
Right.
And I've been having that experience since I was a kid, pretty much.
We're all basically the same age, and I have no memory of woman vice president running for office. Like, that was not even something that was brought up in our household. My mom and dad, they didn't talk about politics. Like, Rush Limbaugh talked about politics in the house for everybody. So,
Right.
I know that was literally the kind of extent of political discussion. And then when my dad got tagged by, it was called HRS at the time, DCF now, for child abuse of my older sister, he went into this whole like denial like thing and got like politically active. I remember seeing him on the news and stuff like that. And I'm like, I was there. You definitely hit her. And it was not,
Wait, he was on the news?
yeah. Like, I saw that whole, like, you know how they just deny thing? And like, he took his denial to the level of the news.
Oh my God.
Got politically active to try it. I don't even know what the heck exactly. Nobody ever explained anything to me, but I was just like, okay, so dad's on the news now, denying and being upset with HRS. But like, I know I was there. I know he did that. I'm his child. He's hit me.
Fascinating.
You know, like,
What dissonance to be taking in as a child, where you're like,
Yeah.
this is what's being told out in the world.
you should have been in trouble. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so that was weird. And I remember I didn't feel compellingly moved by Rush Limbaugh. It's not like I left the house thinking the same political thoughts, so to speak. But I had always had, as you know, Tiffany is my witness. I was literally sewing an American quilt when I got to college.
really cute. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally
How to
sewing
an American quilt.
American quilt. I fell for democracy. I fell for the story because all of our history that we're taught, it's obviously whitewashed, genocide of the Native Americans. Like, they don't really get into the nuances of this whole slavery thing. I was really in love with democracy and the founding fathers and this great vision, this great dream. So then, of course, as a young 18-year-old, once you get out into the world, it became very obvious to me that things that Rush Limbaugh had been saying, now here I am an adult and I'm a woman navigating the world. It's not even a question. Like, it was just,
It took 2 seconds. You'd be like, wait, what? But I think you're only getting one perspective. It's like now when I talk to people, especially some older folks, and it's clear that their only source of news is Fox. Like, the only information they are getting is Fox News. And I can see how if that's all you heard, you have a whole different opinion of all the issues, all the things, the candidates, the whole deal, because it's it's like a different worldview. So if the only perspective you're getting is that of Rush Limbaugh and the bit of politics and media that parents are allowing in, then of course that, to a certain extent, the only information I was getting was the flip side, actually. Right. And that it has stayed with me to this day. So I do wonder, I was raised in a hardcore conservative, outspoken household from the time I was a child, and I never left the region and that I grew up in. Maybe I would be passionate on the other end. I don't know. I like it. That's not true.
I'm going to choose to believe that you would have seen the light.
Yeah. No, I mean, you would have seen it as quickly as I did, Tiffany.
It's just
true. That's why it's good to get out, go to college and get out of your hometown and meet new people.
It's simply why they're trying to, the conservatives don't want their children to be going to liberal arts colleges. Here I am in Florida, and they're literally trying to destroy the public school system. And I'm like, what is your end game? You know? And I was like, oh, like, they need people to be uneducated because if you're not educated, then you just fall for what you're saying. Or if you have an education, then you know how to critically think and analyze and like research things to see, is that true? It sounds so preposterous on the face of it, but it's the long game.
We know that Trump, if he wins, he'll shut down the Department of Education and try and withhold money from public schools if they teach about things he doesn't like. We have an amendment on our ballot now, and it's because in Colorado we have school choice, which means you can sign up to attend a school that's not in your zip code. And now they're trying to put that in the Constitution, which would mean that you could actually get a school voucher.
Mm.
If you decided not to attend public school, you could get a school voucher, and you could put it towards a set amount of money that you could put towards like a private school. So it's literally like taking the funds out of public school and putting them towards private sources.
Yeah, that's what George W. Bush was like. His whole administration invented that concept in the early 2000s that they were trying to do on a national level. And that was the No Child Left Behind. But it's like, actually, it's like a whole bunch of kids are being left behind because you're taking money out of the public schools and putting it for vouchers to religious private schools.
Right.
So you're leaving a whole bunch of children behind, actually.
For sure.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't pass. Colorado is a purple state, so that must be interesting, right? I mean, is it still a purple state?
It's still purple.
Yeah.
Live in like Denver is blue. And there are some like the rural areas are very red. So if you like drive out towards the mountains, it's Trump signs everywhere. But obviously the bigger cities are more liberal, and our governor is pretty moderate. He's a Democrat, but he's like a radical left wing like candidate. But I think like for the most part, Colorado's we vote Democrat.
Okay, so I have to ask you guys because I was tuned out. I was like, I don't have the mental capacity for this. I'm a single mom. I'm working hard. The whole political thing has depressed me. And I was coasting because Biden was in office and I got the student loan forgiveness, bawled my eyes out, had never had something.
Oh, that was a
traumatic.
good moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was the best thing anybody had ever done for me as far as a politician. Because
Well, we were able to take a breath. We were like,
Yeah, exactly. We could like focus on something else for a
I
second.
was able to take a breath. I was able to just feel like, I'm going to, after the pandemic, I'm just going to put all of this. I just don't want things to be stressful.
I think a lot of people did that.
Yeah. And so I was completely tuned out. I didn't even watch the debate between Biden and Trump. And
I'm glad you missed that because it was disheartening.
20 minutes in, I was like, I got to turn this off right.
I was so excited too, because I was like, the last debate between Biden and he just like, killed it. And this one, I was just like, oh my God, it was just so bad. I'm glad you missed it, Julie. It was not.
I'm glad. I'm glad I missed it too, because apparently it was not good. It was a dumpster fire. And so my wake up was like, suddenly they were talking about him stepping down. And I was like, what? What is going on?
Thank God it went so badly, because we would not even have had a chance, in my opinion.
No.
We were like definitely not going to win, which is
unbelievable. But
insane. But because of that one night, like now we have a chance. Young blood. Let's go.
It was so insane for me, because here I went from, and typically I'm right in there with you ladies, and I'm like gung ho and I'm looking at the news but I really had been checked out. So now I'm back. I'm like, all right, I'm totally invested. But it felt like we're in the final inning of a football game. I was like, because I was freaked out. I was like, how can you be making this last minute move? Like, I was so upset.
Scary.
Blessed,
I definitely needed a hug when he announced he was stepping down. I was like, okay, deep calming breaths. But then it did ultimately end up energizing the base.
I feel like what Julie's saying is what a lot of people, I think that story is the case for a lot of people were tuned out. People were apathetic. People were just, for one reason or another, just whatever. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Biden, but whatever. Or I'm not even going to bother because they're just two old white dudes, whatever. And overnight.
Stats. So I didn't even know. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I had no clue. But then the music prizes, Mala, and then the black ladies joined, and then the white ladies did a thing. And then it was like, oh my God, white dudes for heroes.
Like she's raised $1 billion since July.
Yeah.
$1 billion. And in the Schadenfreude category, that just burns Trump so hard. He's so mad about it. And that brings me joy, I gotta say.
I haven't even talked about what's at stake. Gosh. A lot of people, they've been so tuned out. They don't understand what happened with the Supreme Court. And there's so much that has happened with the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah.
The piece that concerns me the most is stripping the president of
immunity.
Yeah. So basically that they can act like a dictator if they want to.
They can do whatever he wants. I'll tell you what's at stake. A million things. But the bottom line is, if Kamala wins, Donald Trump hopefully will be prosecuted. And if Trump wins, he is going to pardon himself and then do whatever he wants for the next 4 years with zero repercussions, because it will all be under the category of presidential duties. And that includes, that includes going after his enemies, going after the media, prosecuting anybody that he feels is not in line with what he wants.
I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I look back in retrospect, and the pandemic was terrible. And I think it probably saved us from the worst of what he could have gotten done.
Right. He didn't think he was going to win the first time around. So he wasn't surrounded by Project 2025 folk.
I know.
Who were going to set the agenda for him. He was not prepared. And so we had a buffer for him before he started really turning stuff upside down. This time he's prepared and ready in the worst way. There's so much at stake. Everything's at stake. I honestly don't know what. I don't know what I'm
I cannot mentally allow myself the exercise of thinking he's actually going to win. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, really, that was my question for you. Okay, and I know I'm going off topic, but should we be like doing mental exercises in case, like, should we be planning out both scenarios, or should we just be going gung ho into like a positive? Seriously, I don't even think about a loss and like what it will do to like my mental health. Should I be like coming up with a plan, like, because that's really dark.
Well, it'll be interesting here in Florida because I think that we're a little bit bluer than the maps are saying right now.
That's so nice, Julie.
With the way that they're not counting all these different registered voters. It's a long story, but yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe something will shift over here.
And it's that Prop 4, right, for the abortion.
Yeah, we have a lot of good amendments on the ballots, recreational marijuana. We have a lot of things that'll get the youth vote out. And we still haven't seen the impact of the Taylor Swift. Of course, Ron DeSantis isn't going to be like, oh, yeah, let's look at how many people are registered to vote. Last time they updated the rules in August. So, so we're not really going to know. It could be a surprise. The answer, Maggie, I don't want to do the mental exercise. And I don't think we need to do it because it's just depressing. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Depressing. I'm like, let's give ourselves permission to not do the mental exercise because I personally, like, ever since like the first 24 hours after Kamala went over, I was like, oh my God, she's going to win. She's going to win. Like, I don't know. I feel just like I felt like I had that pit in my stomach that Trump was going to win. And I had this, when the first time I saw Obama speaking at the DNC before he even ran, I was like, that guy's going to be president one day.
Cautious optimism because I'm so sure of Hillary Clinton.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, you really can't know. It's going to be so tight. And we don't, even if we have that feeling, we really can't like talk about it because otherwise I feel like it jinxes it. I'm like, we have to pretend like we're way behind all the time so that we do everything in our power to like work for the campaign so that like we didn't do, like we did enough once the election day comes.
But you guys watched the DNC this go around.
Yeah.
Good. Like when the Obamas came on.
Oh man. So good. Here's what I think we have to prepare for, you guys.
All right.
We have to prepare for that on November 6th, the day after Election Day, we are not going to know. Have to prepare for that. And that is going to be hard. And we might not know for a little while. And even once we do know, we have to prepare. So let's just say it's November 10th. We know that she won. It is going to be an ugly, long, protracted road of Trump and his
questioning the election,
questioning it, undermining it, pulling out every stop, playing as dirty as they can.
He's already been doing that in Georgia.
Exactly. He's been laying
on top of it, and they're like making sure that now they're saying it to do or getting thrown out and stuff like that. But
we have to prepare for it.
I think she's gonna win by it'll probably still be a squeaker because all those people that are gonna vote third party, which don't get me started, but it's gonna be a squeaker. I think she's gonna win the popular vote because let's face it, even
obviously.
The Republican hasn't won the popular vote in 20 years, over 20 years.
Oh yeah, she's gonna win the popular vote. Will she even electoral college? I think there's gonna be like smoke and mirrors, and then I'm concerned that he already tried to do an insurrection once.
Yeah.
And I think that Americans probably need to be
just prepared.
Just looking head up.
Yeah. I think they will be.
Aware.
Hey,
American.
So good to see y'all. You too. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me late.
Yeah.
You're like, I was trying not to show up at all, but
Yeah.
I really wasn't in, I lost track of time. It's birthday weekend for one of my kids.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it's
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a
weekend.
very long day.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about quite a few things, and I was actually just going to get to the point about like just this wild, switch from like the Republican Party kind of splitting in half right now, or
Mhm.
some degree, right? We don't know the exact percentage. Not my family, who I thought were John McCain Republicans, but turns out they're not. They're both
Really?
for Donald Trump. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. It's so upsetting. Yeah, I was like, Mom, surely at this point and she has this idea in her head that it's the financials,
Is
like
she a millionaire? Just asking.
it's completely not based in reality, obviously. I was like, Mom, I just want you to think that the alimony that you are getting is from Democrats, and the Social Security that you're getting. And also, by the way, all of your children who are going to take care of you when you're old are all Democrats. Anyway, Jen, I know that you are calling in from Pascagoula, Mississippi, where time stands still. I've been there, and it's a beautiful little town, a coastal town, and full of really like good people.
Mississippi doesn't change much in laws or in practice. They don't get too crazy with, they have obviously gotten some extreme stuff out there, but other stuff they don't seem to touch because that's their default, is not change anything.
Right.
They don't get swept up in some of the things.
But when we're talking about Republicans, of course, I think about that, what you just said all the time. Many people I love are Republicans. I don't know if they're voting for Trump. I'm afraid to ask. But my sense is that this whole the Democrats are bad concept has been going on way longer than Trump. Started with Rush Limbaugh and Fox News, in my opinion. And it really bothers me because it's really, but why not? Why not? Can some of them check themselves on the reality of that discomfort? Because we all know that the data shows the economy is better under the Democratic president. The social programs that we need and believe in are the ones put through by Democrats in law. But I think people are just so busy, and certain things in politics make them tune out. So they're not tuned in for all that good stuff.
Right.
And they don't really dig into it as far as who to believe, or they just keep going with the same beliefs. That's,
Well, and I watched your arc over time. You mostly didn't say anything on social media for a really long time because you just didn't think it would be effective, or why say anything. But I have noticed in the last several years, you very politely, with so much dignity, will be like, I just think about this a little bit different. You're so good and diplomatic in the way that you communicate.
I try to come at it from an educator's point of view. Hey, here's this. I try to put the facts out there, and sometimes I falter, but I found that if I don't make a comment, it's better, which I don't think is a good thing, but I refrain from putting my spin on it. Here's the info. You read it. Obviously, I think it's important. Maybe you'll read it since I think it's important.
Right.
But I don't say why I think it's important. And I let people
you'll just be like, oh, this
read
is
it or not. Yeah. And I don't love that, but maybe there's some value in it. But to me, it makes me speak of we don't always want to hear women's opinions. I've felt that in the South. And since I've moved here, especially,
I always want to deal with the backlash of social media.
Yeah, because we're all friends, and yeah, for real life.
I think that, Jen, to a certain extent, like social media needs more of what you're doing, which is just here are the facts. Let the facts speak for themselves, because there's so much hyperbolic. Here's what you need to think, and here's why, and and that has its place at times. There's so much of that on social media that I actually really appreciate someone just being like, here are the facts.
Right.
I'd appreciate it if you take a look at this and form your own opinion. So I have
And
respect
don't get
for
back to me on that.
that.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Really not here for the comments.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to share facts.
I just wonder, okay, assuming that or the Democratic nominee does win, actually, that just reminds me, I think we need to talk about Tim Walz.
Oh, yeah. Tim. He was on We Can Do Hard Things the other day, an hour long of Tim Walz.
I didn't get into the whole episode. The only thing I heard was like the clip of them saying, even if you're not into politics or into you,
Yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
really try.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's really good. Worth a listen.
Oh, I really want to hear that because that aggravates me a lot. Like people politely saying, I just really don't. The way they come into politics, it's a bad thing. And I'm like, look, I'm really not even talking about politics. I'm talking about governing, like,
And our lives.
Yeah,
like
lives.
the government. I mean, we're allowed to, it's a democracy, it's okay. I want to say it's okay if like you're in a busy place because I was busy this weekend. We all have those times or mentally, I can't handle that. Every time I was pregnant, I could not even listen to NPR. It was upsetting. But don't look down on people that are following because it's not a bad thing.
No.
Let's appreciate the people that are staying informed and especially when trust them.
Yeah.
But it's strange. It's strange how they say that. Oh, I'm not in politics. Like it's a virtue.
Like it's not just all the goings ons in your life and like the day to day and like how your parks get funding and like all of that. It's just politics. It's like such a dirty word.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I'm above that. That's nice. But how do you think, to your point, Maggie, how do you think the parks get funded? How do you think the schools get funded? How do you think, and that's why local politics is even more important to a certain extent to people's day-to-day lives. And it's even less paid attention to, which is always pretty amusing. But yeah, this idea that it's a virtue. Oh, I'm above being in the fray with that. It's not like you're saying like, oh, I don't follow football. I'm not into, it's not a hobby.
Right.
It's like it's an actual thing that affects people's lives. And never mind if you have somebody who is in a marginalized community, it directly in a huge way affects their lives. And so to just boast that it's not your thing or you're not interested in it, or sometimes lately they'll interview people who are undecided somehow. And the person will be like, I've never voted. And to me, I'm just like, I don't even want to hear the opinion of someone who is 40 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Turn off, like mute.
Yeah.
It is like it's a point of privilege too. Like if you are able to disconnect from all of that, it means you're it means you're somewhere in a bubble where you're not like, no matter what happens, you'll be fine, which I mean, we all would, like all of us would not be happy. And there are some things that would affect our lives or our children's lives, but we would be okay just because we are white and
class.
Yeah. And
It's always striking to me when people, because I'm trying to have the few conversations I've tried to have with my mom about the whole, are you really voting for Trump thing? She's like, oh, well, I'm socially okay with all that stuff, which I don't know. I think she just said that, but for her, it goes back to some imaginary fiscal scenario she has in her head. And I'm like, but why wouldn't you vote for your neighbors too? Like,
Totally.
But it's a lot of people vote for what they are told their self-interest is without fact checking it and seeing if that's actually true or not. But it's just such a lack of, and that's the one thing, that's why you guys are all my best friends. Cause like we all just care about other people and we're following issues that affect other communities in ways that just most people just don't even, it's just not a consideration. And it makes me
I think it's easier to just not think about it. It's just easier but to your point about your mom saying, I'm socially this, but I'm fiscally this, that is such an outdated, that's a pre-Trump view of Republicans versus Democrats.
And I don't feel like that's even possible now.
And because that used to be what it was, though. It was like, I'm fiscally conservative, so I'm a Republican. It's no, that there was a time when Republicans and Democrats, basically they just saw two different visions of how to get where we're going. Right. And there are still, I believe, many Republicans who would fall under that category. But the wing of the Republican Party that supports Trump That's like that's a departure from core values of how people should be treated and how our society should run. So it's not, we all want the same things. We just have two different ideas of how to get there. This is two completely different visions of what our society
But yet they're still willing to take their chance on that.
Yeah.
Than a Democrat.
I know.
It's like, perhaps they don't like either, but I'm going to take my chance on these wild ideas that are anti-democratic, all these things, than an establishment Democrat, which is closer to the old Republicans than anything.
But we are having a lot of, I have never seen such a ginormous defection from Republican politicians coming out.
Oh, yeah.
He is so much crazier this time around, Trump, than he was the first time. If Biden was old, it's really starting to show in him because he's the only old candidate now. I feel like even in 2016, there were some plans. He would like participate in a debate and have a plan. It's just all gibberish now. It's all just word salad the entire time.
Yeah.
There's that whole coherent sentences, but I trust you.
There's the whole concept of just basic decency too. Basic decency that somehow is, my own in-laws who are great people and have traveled the world. So they're worldly, they're educated, they have had great careers, and basically the taxes being low are so important to them that they're willing to overlook the lack of human decency. He called Kamala the R word the other day on a public stage, and how people are willing to see that and see the president, former president, potential future president.
I think they're intentionally not seeing it. They don't want to see it or hear it. It's
like the old plug your nose and vote.
Right. The tuning out the noise is not a bug, but a feature, right? So we all know that there's this intentional misinformation, there's intentional bombardment of all this stuff everywhere. And then we have the cable news, which thankfully seems to be like ebbing out, and in other independent news, like from social media, is coming in. But they're so snarky. And so when people do tune in and they hear the snarkiness and the attacks, and they hear people just getting emotional, they're like, I'm back out. There is a difference between Republican voters and elected Republicans. Like a lot of Republican voters actually don't share, but it's that disconnect of that information. It's just this belief that, oh yeah, we're in line, but not the engagement to realize, oh, we're not in line.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
In line with what I think would help the country versus what elected Republicans are actually proposing and voting for and voting against.
And I'm curious. One of the things that I've wanted to see for a long time is the voting reform of the Electoral College. And I'm really curious, because now that the Republican Party is splitting in two, if there would be enough votes to actually reform to a more tiered popular voting situation. Because as all of us know, this is a two-party system, and we have two with third parties.
Oh, the tiered voting would be phenomenal.
Yeah, it's rigged to the Electoral College is completely rigged and is going to win. Split in half, then they don't ever have a chance, you know? And so it'll be interesting to see if these Republican politicians who are endorsing Kamala right now on the other side of this will realize our party is now completely obliterated, and we have to go to a different voting system. Am I the only one dreaming of that?
No, we're all dreaming of it. It's just a matter of whether or not it's actually possible. Electoral college is a farce, and it should have been done away with a long time ago. You just look at the fact that the popular vote has been won by Democrats consistently for the last 25 years, give or take. Don't quote me on those numbers. It's been a very long time since a Republican has won the popular vote.
Yeah.
And so that says it right there. That's not democracy.
Whatever side it's not winning is going to fight like hell to not.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think we're going to see change there anytime soon.
No, I think people are very motivated to keep that from changing.
But you
Republicans
said tiered voting, which is a whole nother thing where I thought you meant like ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
I could see that taking off.
Obviously.
But I don't think you could. I don't know if you could mandate tiered voting from a federal level, but I know that some states have it and you could continue doing it state by state.
The next time we get together, Kamala hasn't won. I will probably be half bald. So I hope that you're prepared for that.
I know,
It'll be
started just with the election.
All right. We're going to let you two go. We love you so much.
Okay.
All right, ladies. Love you.
Love you.
Talk to you later. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Jess.
Hey. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think I'd really love to hear your thoughts on Tim Walz, saying that you're an educator yourself and how just adorable and folksy he is. He's just been so refreshing to me, seeing like a Midwestern regular guy able to not just get, but be awesome about it. And it's like this weird Cinderella story that to be on a national stage like that. He wasn't even trying to be vice president. And it's just an incredible story.
I haven't really been back engaging with things that he's saying or doing since he first came on in like the convention. But I was so excited. I was excited when Joe Biden's wife was a community college teacher and an educator. I taught high school, picturing him as a high school teacher. You're just what it takes to just be on the lookout for everybody, to have a vision, to know what helps people, and to enact some of that you can. And the fact that not even just now, but that he took it to the governor of his state. And here's what I feel like all Americans, Republican or Democrat, can just remind ourselves, if someone remind us, when a state goes ahead and implements policies, that's part of our country working well. We get to see, oh, Minnesota did this. Oh, California did this, or Massachusetts, whoever implemented this, and how is it working for them in like a test center. And the fact that he was able to do all those things for his own state, for the people he'd been taking care of already in his town, is such an achievement. It's such an achievement, and a model that the rest of the country can follow. And then for him to be able to bring that experience to maybe help steer our country to like common sense things that help everyday Americans, not the Americans with all the wealth and the power. Because right now I feel like the power has shifted back totally in the wealth's pocket. And I feel like for a time there, we had some power. But with the income inequality lately, we've lost that. But if we put two people like Kamala and Tim Walz, who both come from just the dream, regular middle class lives, and working their way up through education and serving the public, that is so much more power to the people. And we need to tip the scales back because we matter. Even though we don't have money, we matter.
Right.
But yeah, he's awesome. And I don't know. Going through Bill Clinton, there was this whole, you don't want there to be a scandal. There was this whole thing of, I guess it's too much to ask to have a wholesome politician because we shouldn't even try. And then there was a swing to Bush, and part of that was a reaction to the Bill Clinton scandals. And then when Obama came around, it was like, oh, does he have anything? Here's one. But you never know. You know what's that?
It's tan suit.
Yeah, tan suit. Yeah. And then it just, all of that went out the window with Trump. It's just out. If anything goes.
It's the pendulum. It does swing. And Trump was like, let's not forget the backlash. It has been proven that white supremacist groups were able to increase their recruiting when Obama was president.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that data.
Trump is like the response and the backlash.
He's made America forget that we used to evaluate our presidents for their morality, their wholesomeness, their just being able to be a role model for any citizen. And that was a good thing. Are you going to get it right every time? Are you going to know everything? No, but you deal with the information as it comes to you. And whatever you do find out, you have to evaluate that. I'm excited to have people focus on the well-being of others, just like both of them, Kamala and Timal, have been in their careers.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen in the election? Do you have any idea? Do you have any sense?
Oh, I think that she's going to win. I think the next part is, it's really the day after the election.
Yeah.
It's the day after the election.
Well,
what do you think is going to happen?
The day we look, our elections we don't find out for weeks sometimes. But yeah, I definitely think that there's going to be an extreme backlash if she does win.
I know that her team, I trust because I've been paying attention, that they are on top of the legal system. They are on top of the challenges. They're on top of ensuring that the same thing the Republicans say that they're trying to ensure, which is the safe and secure elections and that everything is fair. And I know they're on top of that. What I want to see is, are they on top of the marketing? That is, it's fair.
Right.
And the transparency. Somebody said a couple weeks ago, and maybe even last week, that the one thing that Trump is good at is marketing and promotion.
Right.
What is he selling?
Pocket knives. Sorry.
He's not selling anything we need or want, but he's just so, it's a default for him. Just like when I go in to teach, I'm like, whoop, here I go. He just can't help himself. But the Democrats, they can't ignore that they have to reach the American people.
I've seen them going into, they went into Omaha. I've seen them going in places.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They're doing it from a campaign point of view. They are, people are saying, I can't believe they went on such podcasts. Well, do you see how many viewers that the Fox show or CNN or any cable news network gets? It's comparable to the podcast.
Right.
And it's a different demographic of people.
I think
that's just common sense and good sense.
Yeah.
To be going to the different forms of media. So are they going to do a talk about the election, not after the campaign is over, but reaching out to everybody where they're at? Yeah. I want to go back and watch the interview that Kamala did with Fox News.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen it yet.
I saw a clip of it. I was like,
yeah, I heard it was tense.
Yeah, it was tense, which I don't really like tense. Talk about not wanting to get political, but
right. I think it's important because that is the one thing that a lot of conservatives will see.
Heck yeah.
So I think it's important for us to see it as well.
It's important. And even Trump going on that one with the Black Journalists Forum, the number one rule for me is just listen to the candidate themselves.
Right.
However you can. And you got to take it from the horse's mouth and evaluate it for yourself. And so it's totally appropriate for her to go.
Check it. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so. But you could tell from listening to Trump that he's making up stuff.
Yeah. But JD was quick one, man. Whoa, he was a good liar. Oh, man. He made you believe his lies. Oh.
Did y'all even touch on JD Vance in your conversation earlier?
I haven't even thought.
We probably should have because, the way he has said, we have to come up with these stories to get the media to pay attention to it.
Yeah. The debate news, okay, you said that there was not going to be any fact checking. Really? Wow. Wow, dude.
Oh, yeah, the values are different. And I don't think it's good for America, that direction of making up stuff to get people to pay attention to it. That's not a good direction.
Yeah, that's not
we have to try. We have to try to be straightforward.
Yeah. To be straightforward, to be honest. And it's so interesting because that was the way the Conservative Party had positioned themselves as the family, the party of family values, the wholesomeness, purity even. And now it's interesting because the Democrats are really the family values choice. And they're here for making sure that people are paid well, that they're getting out of debt, that there's care and concern for other people. And in their own ways, they've always done that. But now we've seen Obama got the Affordable Care Act, and that was major health care reform. One of Biden's biggest things was this student loan relief program.
Also, Clinton before then, the FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. And it's not enough. Everybody knows it's not enough, but we didn't even have that.
And that's the thing about government being a leader of an organization. You can't turn a ship this big very fast. You have to make incremental changes unless you have those crazy opportunities that are just like these, like when the Berlin Wall came down, like it wasn't going to happen until it did. Same thing with legalizing medical marijuana. It seemed like I was like, it's never going to happen. But then it did. Gay marriage was another one. And so there's all of these different measures that feel like they're impossible, but then we are able to get it through.
Mississippi changing our flag finally.
What happened?
After all of the Black Lives Matters protests, we finally changed our flag. We had the Confederate bars on our flag up until a couple of years ago. Now we have a beautiful flag with a magnolia flower. They called a special session and they finally got it done. But it had been proposed every single session and it had been shot down. They finally got it done. So it was a really nice show of bipartisanship. I think that they were feeling pressure from the SEC football, and probably employers. That's a long-standing thing. Employers from other states looking at coming here, and some of them are cool with anything, and some of them are like, we're not cool with this or that. And the flag was one of those things because they have to bring talent in that want to live here, and they want certain things from the people that live here, and they want a certain environment to attract their employees to move here if needed. Yeah. So that was another wave, like you said. So you try to change forever, and then this opportunity comes, and finally, yay!
Yeah, you think it's never going to happen, and then it does. And you know what? Precipice, here we are. Never think of what president was going to happen, and we had to have that Hillary test run, and here we are. And man, I hope that when we video chat again, hope we're smiling. Hope we're smiling. We don't have to wonder for too long. It's almost here. Almost here. We just got a few more weeks to go, man. And then a few more weeks usually after the actual election day to figure out who actually won. But maybe it'll be quick.
And the control of the House and the Senate.
Right. One of the reasons I wanted to do this conversation with the three of you, and I'm going to try to do more like regular people conversations.
Yeah.
Like talking heads that are slick and professional, is because there's a lot of people that, again, are turned off by the politics. And it's, look, we are just regular people. It might seem overwhelming, but like, if you just pay attention a little bit, you'll start to see what's going on. It's really not over anyone's head. Like, you just have to tune in a little bit, then you'll start to see the pattern, and you'll see why the government gets stalled and why it's important to get out and vote and to actually pay attention.
I think on a daily basis, you find those one or two sources that provide the receipts, that they don't get too emotional. Of course, Heather Cox Richardson, the historian that just starts documenting everything, and she provides the receipts. There's a girl on social media, I really like her. She's called the News Girl. And perhaps she used to work for a news station, but she's got a daily email, YouTube, TikTok, and she's very straight with her. You know what I mean? She really tries hard to be like, here it is. Here's the facts. The other thing is that certain issues, you really have to go deeper so that it doesn't matter if you understand every issue at a deep level, but it does help to go deeper for one or two, because what you realize is for the other issues, you don't know what you don't know, and you shouldn't be just believing willy-nilly, because once you go deeper on one or two issues, there's so much complexity that you can't just make snap judgments on.
Yeah, which is why it is important, like you said, to find those people that have those voices that you're like, this person seems reasonable, and I might not be able to sit there all day and parse through this information myself, but this person does.
The end of the brutally edited conversation with my best friends. I'm Julie Wilder. This is Front Porch Radio. Conversations for the common good is what we do here on this program every Monday at 4:00. And I just really wanted to share some of those. That was just like an intimate, private conversation. That's a typical conversation with me and my girls, and it's actually makes my heart just sing a little bit that I captured that for posterity and for the permanent record, as my mother used to warn me about when I was younger. So yeah, if you like that the last person I was talking to is my friend Jennifer, my best friend from high school, and she lives in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Before that, we were talking as well with my friends Maggie, who is in Denver, and Tiffany, who lives in Petaluma, which is just outside of San Francisco in California. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Front Porch Radio. You can find me on all of the socials, and I will be posting the conversation there in case you missed any of it. Thank you so much, and stay tuned. We're going to have some more good music coming up.